Right, good day and welcome. Mr. Simons here. In this lesson, we'll be solving quadratic equations by means of factorization. And I give you a perfect square of terms where all three terms create a perfect square. All terms are positive, middle terms negative, etc. And then one last complicated where the first coefficient is a prime number. So problem number 1. They've given us solve for x, 9x squared plus 24x plus 16 equals 0. 9 already there I know is a perfect square and 16 is a perfect square, meaning 3 times 3 would give me 9 and 4 times 4, 16. So I should know 3x times 3x would give me 9x squared and 4 times 4 would give me 16. But if I look at its two terms and I multiply it by a value 2, will it give me the middle term? So I say 3x times the 4 there times 2. 3x times 4 gives me 12x. 12x times 2 then gives me 24x. Right, so therefore 9x squared plus 24x plus 16 can be written as 3x times 3x to get 9x squared. Positive 4 times positive 4 to get 16. And now I have 12x plus 12x to give me 24x. Right, so both brackets are the same. They are perfect square. So that I can write now as 3x plus 4 equals 0. If I take plus 4 over negative 4, we always divide by the value in front of x, the coefficient 3. So that becomes negative 4 over 3. So they have solved for x given a perfect square. Right, let's look at problem number 2. Right, now here, solve for x. I have x squared plus 15x plus 36 equals 0. Right, all my terms are positive. So x squared there, coefficient of 1 is simply x times x to get x squared. So technically now I have to use the factors of 36 that add up to 15. Right, so factors of 36, I can start off and say 36 times 1 is 36. But that positive 36 plus that positive 1 gives me 37, which is not the value I have in the middle. So I can't use the first list. Then 12 times 3, we assume we know is 36. But plus 12 plus 3 gives me plus 15. And that 15 is what I'm looking for there in the middle, 15x. Right, if I look at 6 times 6 gives me 36, but positive 6 plus 6 gives me 12. Take note, I've only used positive values because all the terms there are positive. So when I factorize now, x squared plus 15x plus 36, x squared will always simply be x times x. But as you can see there, 12 plus 3 gives me the 15, and 12 times 3 gives me 36. Using the zero factor law, I say x plus 12 equals 0, or x plus 3 equals 0. Take plus 12 over x equal negative 12. Take plus 3 over x equal negative 3. Right, so that's the second format. Let's look at the third format. Right, so in the third format, solve for x. X squared minus 33x plus 32 equals 0. So first and last term is positive, but the middle term is negative. Right, so to get a negative there, you need to understand this must be negative times negative to get a positive, but negative and negative will give me negative value. So x squared is x times x, which gives me x squared. Look at the factors of 32. A lot of learners get caught out. Because this is 1 less than that, we can only use the factors 32 and 1. Right? So minus 32 times negative 1 gives me positive 32, but minus 32 minus 1 gives me negative 33. You can also say negative 16 times negative 2 gives me positive 32, but you see minus 16 minus 2 equal negative 18, which is not in the middle. Negative 8 times negative 4 gives me positive 32, but negative 8, negative 4 gives me negative 12, which is not given in the middle. So I have x squared minus 33x plus 32 equals 0. X squared is simply x times x. Positive 32 is the negative 32 times the negative 1. Can be positive 32, but negative 32 x, negative 1x gives me negative 33x. Using zero factor law, I can now state that x minus 32 equals 0, or x minus 1 equals 0. So if we take negative 32 over x equal 32, take negative 1 over x equal to 1. So what we solved, if I take 32 there, 32 minus 32 gives me 0. 0 times anything stays 0, so therefore equal to 0. If I put 1 there, 1 minus 1 is 0, and 0 times any bracket stays 0. Right, let's look at the fourth, little bit more complex problem. Right, so in every exam, we technically test you on one problem where the coefficient here in front, most of the time is a prime number. I assume you know 5 is a prime number, it only has the factors 1 and 5. So because I have 5, I'm going to multiply 5 by 12 first. So 5 times 12 gives me 60. The x squared, I assume you simply remember that is x times x to get x squared. So now I need to use the factors of 60 to get to negative 16. So minus 60 times minus 1 equals 60. But minus 60 minus 1 gives me negative 61, which is not there in the middle. Negative 12 times negative 5 gives me positive 60. But negative 12, negative 5 gives me negative 17, which is not given in the middle. So negative 6 times negative 10, I get positive 60. But negative 6 minus 10 then gives me negative 16. So I have to get in my brackets when I multiply, right, negative 6, negative 10, right, to get to negative 16. So say 5 is a prime number, I can only write it as 5x times x, right? Negative 6, if we look at 12 and 5, I assume you can see negative 6 can only divide into 12. So negative 6 times negative 2 would give me positive 12. But now to get the 10, you see, minus 6x. And negative 2 times 5x gives me negative 10x. So there's my negative 10 minus 6 gives me negative 16x. Right, so now 5x minus 6 equals 0. Or x minus 2 equals 0. Take negative 6 over, I get positive 6. I always divide by the coefficient of x, which in this case is 5. There negative 2 goes over, x equals 2. Can also be 1 to 5x squared minus 16x plus 12 equals 0. I have 5x squared and 12. But I take the 16x, I break it up into two terms that when added, see, minus 10 minus 6x gives me minus 16x. But at the same time, the two terms are factors, or as common factors that can divide in both terms. So there, if I take minus 10x, there 5x, 5 can divide in 5 and in 10. Right? If I take 10x away, I'm left with minus 6x. 6 can divide in 6 and into 12. So I've broken minus 16x up so that there's a common factor for the first two and a common factor for the last two. So between 5x squared and minus 10x, I assume you can see I can take out 5x as a common factor for that first two. So if I take out 5x, 5x squared divided by 5x gives me x. Minus 10x divided by 5x gives me negative 2. There, if I divide by negative 6, negative 6x divided by negative 6 gives me x. Positive 12 divided by negative 6 gives me negative 2. So after I've removed the common factor, you should see the two brackets left should be the same, x minus 2. Right, the values that's left in front of the brackets I write in their own brackets, so that's times 5x minus 6 equals 0. So if you look at those two and you look at these two, I've gotten the same concept. So from there, if I take x minus 2 equals 0, 5x minus 6 equals 0. Take negative 2 over, x equals positive 2. Take negative 6 over, it becomes positive 6, divided by the coefficient of x, so it's 6 divided by 5. So I hope you enjoyed the lesson, I hope you followed. Any specific problem in this list that you feel I should do more of, so on, I will gladly do so. Wish you nothing but the best. Please like, share and subscribe.